Do, 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 do. I am live right now, and it's 9:20. So we're getting back to our 9:10ish time. You know, today is going to be a great Thursday evening, quick session. As always, if you're out there, hello. Or you can do like other people, watch it later. I always like when you all converse with me. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I did not say the word conversate because that is not a real word. But I do appreciate when you all converse with me. It is so nice. And as I always say, if you're out there, say hey. Um, so today I want to briefly talk about what I learned today. Sometimes you can learn from your own experiences, but other times you can learn from other people's experiences, and it could be a reminder to you of like, oh yes, that is important. So here's 3 things I'm going to talk about today that every leader needs. I think if you're leading yourself, you're leading other people, you a good follower, because leaders should be great followers. They should be the best followers because if they want people to follow them, they need to set a great example of it. So that's not one of the things I was going to share, but I just dropped that. But today I'm talking about what I learned today. Just here are 3 experiences I truly believe every leader needs. And I hope you guys are doing well this evening. So here's the first one. And I remember getting this one years and years and years ago. And hey, Kim, how are you? And I was talking to somebody today who experienced the same thing. And I was reminded, and I literally said, I always say, this is something every leader needs. And that is every leader should have the experience sometime. And I know people disagree with this, but every leader should have this experience of putting on something and nobody showing up. And I'm going to lose some people right there. But I truly believe it. Like I remember when I first started teaching Bible study way back in the day, like 20 years ago. There was a couple moments. It was going well. It was being built up. And there were these days. Then I will never forget the first day when nobody showed up. And people will hate me saying this, but that is one of the greatest. One is extremely humbling because like what in the world? And you go through like a literally cyclone of emotions. First of all, you're mad. And I was putting on a Bible study. This person that I was talking to was putting on something similar, like they were doing a program. And I think especially with consistent things, and I'm going to tell you why. And I used to always say this, and I say this still. I think every leader who wants a following should have the experience of showing up to an empty room. And the reason is because it's a reminder that it's not about you. It's a reminder of how important those people are. They're not numbers, they're people. And also it's a gut check because you get to be reminded about why you're doing what you do and how you need to reach out to people and see if what you're offering is what they need. Also what they're interested in. But one of the things that is good when you show up to an empty room, I mean, let me be clear. I do not like it. It sucks. I've had that at different times. It's a reminder of how you need to work on your communication, of how you need to check in with people. It's a humbling experience to show up to an empty room. But I do believe that it's like one of the hallmarks to me. And I would rather have it early in leadership than later. But when I've experienced it, it's made me go back and have important conversations. It's made me say, you know what? This is not about me. It's about the people. But also, it's made me reimagine what it is I'm offering. Because right now, there are like a lot of like, whether it be churches in decline or like organizations in decline. And the reason is there was a moment that's usually missed when they stopped, they went from growing, they plateau, and then they start declining, but they didn't really pay attention during decline. And a lot of times when people are declining, they go instead of going back to the vision, they go back to the practices that they used to do. But what they need to go back and get is the hunger that they had before when it first started, that hunger, that need to be like, excuse me, you know what I'm offering? But we lose that because we get comfortable. So I remember there's even in recent past, I mean, not too recent, but it was recent that I had moments where people didn't show up. And I was reminded like, yeah, you need to send out something. You can't take people's time for granted and assume that just because you're offering something, hey, Carol, how are you tonight? Just because you're offering something, people are going to show up for it. So that's the first thing. I truly believe that even if it only happens to you once, I think that every leader should have the experience of showing up to an empty space. And it really, to me, is the gut check of life. It's the reminder about why you do what you do. And it's humbling once again. Some people may think it's humiliating, but it's not that humiliating if you just been there by yourself. But it's humbling, but it's also just if you're doing, it's a time to pray. It's a time to be like, okay, God, show me what I should learn in this situation. And it's one of those things that say, should I be expecting the people to come to me or should I be going to the people? So that's one of those things. Hello, John Howard. How are you? Good to see you tonight. So yeah, that's the first thing. First of three things. The second thing, I think every experience. Oh, Carol, she said, I'm good. I wore my yellow today. That's dope, Carol. That is dope. And Kim, you're right. We should never discount our impact. That is so true. We should never discount our impact. And part of the thing about the empty room is it just makes us humble. Like I remember one of the first times I will say that I ever experienced this whole empty room phenomenon. I was doing youth Bible study and I did all the studying. And I made the cards and I sent the cards and I handed them out. And we did it. And the first 2 weeks, I was the only one there. And I came ready. And I remember like, what in the world is happening? And even the people who told me they were coming never showed up. So I reached out to them. And the thing is, I'll never forget this. I just kept thinking in my mind, if I keep pressing, if I keep trying, and sooner or later, people are going to show up. And when they do, I want to be here. I want to be here. And I remember that. And I remember after that, of course, the Bible study started growing and having great conversation and it was growth. But those first couple of weeks when nobody showed up and I showed up to that empty room, I remember it was a gut check, but it was also a heart check because I needed to know why I was there. And it wasn't like, and once again, like I said, that the people matter. And it was just it exposed what I was really doing. So that's number one. Every leader should have an experience of showing up to an empty space. And people would disagree, but I'm telling you, it's not like it. And you learn from it. Which brings me to the second thing I think experience every leader should learn from. And I was thinking about today, and it simply is this: honest feedback. It's amazing how many leaders go through life and do not have people giving them truly honest feedback. Now, you could get into different ways. And thank you, Kim, I love what you said about the past. Like, yeah, sooner or later, people will come. And part of what I was saying earlier about really tapping in and having important conversations, one of the most important conversations we could have is really honest feedback. And we could get it in a few ways. One, anonymously. Because if you're a leader, sometimes people just don't want to hurt your feelings. Like they just don't want to hurt our feelings. They don't want to hurt our feelings. And it may be something needful to say. So providing ways for people to give really honest feedback about things we do. It could be events. It could be if I have a program. It could be, hey, watch this. It really is very important. And part of that honest feedback could happen in a coaching experience or things, but we definitely need to have places in our life where people can give us truly authentic feedback. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times, and this is specifically for leaders, but other spaces too, where we tell people to be honest and they're honest about the good stuff, but they're not honest with us about the stuff that can really grow us because they don't want to hurt our feelings, And Kim, you're right. Like, feedback is a great gift, but sometimes, people will not give us the feedback because they're like, either they don't think their voice matters, or I'll say this, they just don't want to hurt us, or they think, well, somebody else will tell them this. And this is not just for leaders. This point is just for people in life, period. But I name leaders because people in authority have impact over other people. And sometimes the longer we stay in a position, the less honest feedback we get. And you're right, leaders never get, because here's the thing. The reason we need, this is important, and I'm bringing it out, is because we have to position ourselves to get that feedback. But because the problem, here's where I want to say, sometimes people think feedback is really tearing them down, and it isn't. It really is helping to build you up. But we get so used to hearing great things about ourselves that we only make room for those compliments. And they're not even great things all the time. Sometimes we only make room for compliments. And then what ends up happening is the people end up having to talk behind your back because you don't let them speak to your face. And so my thing is, there's some people who never going to tell you the truth, but to position ourselves in a humble way and make it easy for people to give us feedback is what I'm saying. The honest feedback that we need. And some of it is like, you're awesome, you're good. And you get to hear the stuff maybe you're missing that you could be really great at. But it could also be stuff that nobody just feels comfortable telling us. And so that's why I'm like, we need to position ourselves so that it's easy for people to give us feedback. At the same time, we definitely got to guard our heart. Out of it flows the issue of life. Like, make it so that like you're not so open, like whatever you say, I'm just going to do. But there's some people, and this is the thing. There's some people who really love us who may not be comfortable telling us about us. And that's sad. So we need to position ourselves. And I learned this. And you got to breathe and listen, and write notes. You could just be writing notes so you don't say anything. I know that's true, because it's hard. It is hard. And you will want to explain like, okay, well, the reason I do that is because of this, or the reason I do that is because of this. And I think that if you love the people and they love you, we need to make it, as comfortable as possible for them to give us the feedback that we need. That's a great question. Kim, how do you get in that position? Well, one of the ways that we position ourselves, thank you, great question. One of the ways that we can position ourselves, as I said, is by establishing it as part of the culture that we set. Like if I'm in the leader of a group and I'm like, all right, one of the continual questions, I remember when I was a director, I would always say to the group I was leading, to the leaders, part of that is just on the forums, like, what can I do to make what you're doing, either. And then sometimes I would position myself by asking this question: what am I doing that drives you guys crazy? Write it on the paper anonymously and give it back to me. What's the area I need to improve? Because if you ask it like that, it it makes it less formal. Like, what am I doing that may drive you guys crazy? Like some people would say, Tanika, you have long pauses where you start talking about one thing, then you move from one thing, and then you go to something else, and then you go over here. And I had to take that, and my answer is that, but that's how my brain works. But it was like, but we don't know where your brain is going. Or you just enter rooms and you just start talking. Like I remember somebody said that, but sometimes you just start talking, but you ignore the fact that there's conversations already happening. Because I assumed that everybody was waiting on me to come and start a meeting. But I would say, hey, everybody, all right, let's get started. But they were like, but wait, we're discussing something. And you just ignored it. I didn't know. I never thought of it. I mean, here's the thing. I never thought of it. I thought they were just waiting on me to go start the meeting. So I learned to show up in the space, enter the space differently, because how I was entering, it was disruptive. And it was, I was assuming that because I held the agenda that I could not just show I guess, just simple manners by saying, waiting to waiting for a pause and simply saying, all right, everybody, I hope you're doing well. So those things were extremely helpful. Those things are very, very helpful. Very, 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 very helpful. Oh, Kim, thank you. She said, I had that thought today with my leader. Yeah, and here's the thing. See, when we have those moments, like a reflection moments, and here's the other thing. We can learn so much by other leaders that drive us crazy. So I always think that some of the feedback we would give to other leaders, we got to make sure that we don't do that ourselves. And as much as it bothers us, that could be a moment of like, I may not be able to change what that person is doing, but let me make sure I never make anybody feel like that. Because that's one of the things I am thankful for. I've had some really bad experiences as being a leader, being a follower, whatever. And I can't change that person. I can't change who those persons were. I can't do anything like, in different facets, different aspects. This isn't just church, this is life. But I remember walking away saying, I never want anybody to feel this way. So that's one of the ways that we can make sure, pause and listen first. And I just think creating a culture of openness at the right time. It's like the question box, so how we position ourselves, I want to make sure I answer that, is just like a question box. It's not always open. So people aren't just like, I know what you're doing this, you didn't this. But just like you would have a question box moment, like in different hot topic sessions, those are ways to position ourselves. And instead of us pulling questions out, maybe those are questions that we take in. And just asking, like, if you could, if you were coaching me, what's one thing you would do? There's a question right there. If you were coaching this position, what's one thing you would do? And you could just say this position. You don't even have to say me. So those are ways to position yourself. You don't lose authority. You don't lose any of that, but you really do grow. So that's the second one. So the first one is, I think every leader should have a moment where they show up to an empty room. The second one is really honest feedback, specifically, yes, from those who you follow, but also from those you lead. Because there could be some simple little things. Like I gave the one about showing up and just talking, or going off to the river and through the woods, or just holding people too long, things like that, that just is like, okay, let me reframe what I'm doing. And this is going to make me a better leader. So let's not forget, the reason you're getting that feedback is because to be the best person you could ever be. So that's the second one. Here's the third one. Here is the third one. Every leader, and you got to use your imagination for this, should have, and this is a two-part one, a conversation with your younger self. And similarly, every leader should have a conversation with your future self. The conversation with your older self, with your younger self, is to help put some stuff away that you may be carrying with you. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens when we're little or when we're younger that we end up not getting fixed, and instead it festers. So this thing can happen through counseling. But sometimes when I see pictures of me when I was younger, I just pause, and this may sound crazy, but I say to her, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I don't know why that blesses me, but it does. Just know that it does. I'll see those pictures of being in high school. I don't have too many, but I was looking at a few, and I was like, girl, this was a very awkward season, but you gonna come through it, babe. You gotta come out of it. Oh, I had an awkward, that was so awkward. Now I call it a gift of awkwardness, but child. And then with my older self, I just, I know tomorrow's not promised, but I will say, this is, I will speak to myself with the hope of this is where I will belong. So I say to my older self, finish that book. Make sure thank you for finishing that book. thank you for, accomplishing that. Or remember life's not known. So I always have conversations probably once a year, write a letter to my older self that I keep, and I write letters to my younger self that I frame or just put in a book or in my journal. So those are things. It's very I don't know what you call it, just healing. It's just very healing. With my older self, it puts me back in alignment with where I want to be. Those conversations, and with my younger self, it just helps me to leave some stuff in the past. But yeah, when I see some of those things, I just be like, girl, you gonna be all right. It won't be like this always. Listen, it ain't gonna be like this always. You're gonna come. And like I said, writing letters to my older self, those are things that I kind of put in a time capsule. And in those moments, it reframes my mind of where do I want to be? How do I start planning these things? Because where do I want to be in 5 years or 10 years? And that is assumptive, but we should plan these things out. So yes. And he said, I've written those letters. Amen. Kim, thank you. She said, I've learned, to talk to my younger self. Amen. Hey, John, yes, we are going to make that trip one day to Liberia. I have not forgotten it. See, I'm going to write that letter to my older self that we will get back. We will get there. We will get there. So I thank you for reminding me of that. But you guys, what are some things, what are some experience you guys think leaders need? Because those were the three, I think that's of course not limited to those, but those are three experiences I think every leader should have. And like I said, those were just a reminder today. The first is showing up to an empty room, because you just need to value all the stuff I said earlier. Secondly, honest feedback. And third, every leader should have the experiences of writing a letter to your younger self and to your older self, and to be able to cherish where you are today. It really helps you to reframe sometimes where you think you are, by remembering, you know what, this is where I've been. Hence reflection. You don't just stay looking in the rearview mirror. You crash, but there are moments when you should look behind you, and it helps us to say, you know what, that's what's behind me. You back it up or whatever. But to look ahead, and it's like a roadmap. It's like a reminder that, you know what, I will never have today again. So I want to make the most of it. And it's cool. It's cool to do that. So what are some things you guys do? Let me know. Thank you for being in conversation. It is about speaking life to every season of your life. Thank you, Kim, for saying that. And I'm telling you guys, these are very helpful things. Hurtful things sometimes, because that's what I said. You start writing letters to your younger self, you may need to ask a counselor to walk along with you. But it could just be a time where you talk to that little girl or little boy, little whoever, and just say, you know what, you're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. That hurt. I see what was happening, but we're going to be fine. Or, man, you was a firecracker, would you? That was funny. Remember when? So I love you all. Thank you for being in conversation with me this evening. That is what I learned today. So these are things we could do. I hope you all, as always, have a wonderful night and a beautiful day. Know that you are loved, and I will be back tomorrow with what I learned today. Good night, everybody. Oh my goodness, what is that noise that is happening in my house? Like,